5-second board is shown then. Watching for the lights, the red lights go on. And out, so away they go then. It's a slightly better start by Peter Bove, Bob Simpson, who's got family encouragement. I've had the message through on Twitter from Lisa Palmer to encourage that he's made a pretty good start as well. He's got ahead of Dave Hodkin indeed, as Bob Simpson, so that's a very good start indeed, up into second place, although Andrew Kemp trying to go around the outside of him now at Rich's corner, disappearing behind the guardrail there as they head up towards the Wilson hairpin, but although Peter Bove's leading, Bob Simpson still here in second position. None of them going that deep into the corner as we saw in the previous race, but Bob Simpson's got the lead away from Peter Bove there. Good move from Bob Simpson in his 50-something year of racing in 750 Formula. But now Andrew Kemp moving through on the inside and Dave Hodkin on the outside. Peter Bove here has dropped back to about 4th position. And round the outside at Palmer, Dave Hodkin retakes the lead after that ropey start, really, away from Bob Simpson now. So it's Dave Hodkin leading, Bob Simpson second, and almost side by side for third there, Josh, Andrew Kemp and Richard Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins down the inside. The championship leader, Peter Bove, is being very cautious here. He loses another place to Ray Barley. The shepherd of Jenkins did go through, by the way, ahead of Andrew Kemp, but Bob Simpson there was using 50 years of experience in the category, wasn't he, at the start. We've seen him go well in the wet before, haven't we? I'm thinking back, was it Cadwell Park? He was on the podium in the wet a couple of years ago. And could we see Bob back on the podium today? Well, he's in second place and he's pulling away, if anything, from the rest.
Two Race Kits Falcons there were side by side, and it's Raymond Barley in the number 11 car that's got ahead there of 42 Andrew Kemp, who was on the podium yesterday, coming through as well. You've got Steve Boother in the number 17 Derby. He started on row 6 of the grid, so he's going well at this stage of the race. 15-minute race, as we say, but it's Dave Hodkin then. After that disappointing start, he's really made amends for that now. Play has a big lead over Bob Simpson in second place. Everyone else trying to be third. It's Richard Jenkins in third at the moment, but again, the angle a bit deceptive there, but not far away from him was Raymond Barley. And then you've got Steve Boother, Andrew Kemp trying to find some grip around the outside of Nelson. No grip for Steve Boother. The car just snapping away from him on the exit of the corner, so he's had a spin. Disappointing for him after a good start, Josh.
Yeah, that's the Derby, isn't it, that Steve Boother is in. So he's gone for a spin. So Dave Hodkin, as expected, he's getting away. Bob Simpson, P2, in turn, has got a decent gap over Richard Jenkins. There's that battle for third that was very busy a moment ago. Where are the two championship contenders? Well, they're falling away, aren't they, Peter Bove and Mark Glover? But as Mark Glover isn't moving forwards, this is absolutely fine for Peter Bove. He'll be fine with this. He's what, 6, something like that, ahead of Mark Glover. It's really strange that Mark Glover hasn't seemed to have the pace that he's had for the last 2 seasons this year. He hasn't won any of the races, has he? He's had a few second places. He's actually only had 1 second place, hasn't he? Which was at Silverstone. So it's been a bit of an odd season, really, for somebody that's been so successful in the last 2 years.
Yep, so 12 minutes of the race left to go. And there you can see Chris Goff in the number 7 car, the violet-coloured machine. And there are all the 2 championship contenders. 2, Peter Bove, runner-up last year, but a 4-time champion in the past at number 1. Mark Glover. Now, Bove does take a deeper light last time, and although Glover tried to make it through on the inside, I think that shows that the outside line does work, really. Bove able to hang on. Chris Goff just tucked in behind them. The Race Kits Falcons are side by side again. You can see different aero on those 2 cars as well, but similar chassis. Side by side, but Andrew Kemp getting ahead, I think, as they run down to Agostini for the second time. It's going to be the 11 car of Raymond Barley that, we'll get back through because that's a little bit too wide, Agostini, for Andrew Kemp. If you start using the grass, that's not advisable. He's now lost the position again to Raymond Barley.
Yeah, wide is good, but green is not. That is too wide, and that means that a place only is lost for Andrew Kemp. In fact, he's still ahead of Peter Bove, who still is coming under pressure from Mark Glover in this battle for 6th and 7th positions. They turn their way, crawling their way through Oggies. Where's the grip? Can they find it? How much throttle input can they put in before they do what Steve Boother did a lap ago and have a spin? That's not what they want to do. There is Mark Glover then, up the curb, so he was happy to use that without there being too much of a lack of grip. There's Bob Simpson, still second. He was 2 seconds ahead of Richard Jenkins at the end of the previous lap, and he's keeping that pretty static for now. Dave Hodkin's way out in front, like he was yesterday, like he was in qualifying as well. There, though, is Richard Jenkins. This has certainly been his best performance in 750 Formula this weekend, obviously helped by the conditions. Then Barley through again. That's been a good performance from him in these conditions. Those two drivers haven't been this far up the order before, have they, in the category? Of course, Richard Jenkins, though, as we mentioned, much more experience in low cost and has been a winner there. Side by side now we go with Peter Bove and Mark Glover, and Mark Glover does get himself ahead of Bove through Coram for 6th, but in the grand scheme of things, Ian, that's just not going to be enough, is it?
No, it's not going to change anything as far as the championship's concerned, because really Glover needs to win, and have Bove non-finish is pretty much what would be needed for Glover to snatch the championship away at the last moment. You've seen Jenkins go across the line there in 3rd position, Raymond Barley 4th, Andrew Kemp 5th, Mark Glover 6th, so 3 race kits in a row there. Then Peter Bove 7th now in the Derby. There is Mark Glover.
We're seeing kind of similar lap times to qualifying yesterday. Dave Hodkin a few seconds away from that, but as was the case in qualifying, it's 7 seconds again that he's quicker than the rest.
Yeah, he's 14 seconds now, very nearly ahead of everybody else in this race after just 2 laps, 9 minutes of which are left to go.
Looks like we're going to get 6 laps in, doesn't it? 5 minutes in 2 laps, so that would suggest that 15 minutes will be a 6-lapper. There then is Glover and Bove. So Mark Glover hasn't really got away from Peter Bove after passing him, 4 corners ago. Great big rear wing on Peter Bove's Derby. That's had a lot of work, I think, since it was originally built in 1988. But again, as it's a development form, you can do that. You can use the same chassis and then just keep working on it over the years. And as well as being a development formula, it's also then actually a pretty cost-effective way to go motor racing. It's a great way of learning about design and all that goes with that, because there's not actually that many places you can do that if you're looking to have a career in motorsport, building cars, whether that be sports cars or single-seaters. And 750 Formula is somewhere you can learn that. Yeah, Andrew Kemp just getting off the road. Yeah, you're right. And I think often, there's been an aspiration to get sort of more motorsport colleges involved in running cars in 750 Formula, precisely for the reasons that you've just outlined. But it hasn't necessarily always come off. There's Bob Simpson then, number 4, still running in 2nd position, still about 2 seconds or so clear of Richard Jenkins. Raymond Barley there in 4th position. 5th is the 42 car of Andrew Kemp, 6th Mark Glover. There is Glover now, turning his way through Nelson. He's caught Kemp on this lap. He was just over a second behind. It's come down a little bit, I think, on this lap, I would suggest. After that spin from Steve Boover, he got back to 10th at the end of 2 laps and was lapping quicker than Hill, Goff and Bove and Kemp as well. So Steve Boover, see how far he can get up the order. At the beginning of the lap, he was about 10 seconds behind this battle. Andrew Kemp and Mark Glover that turned their way into Murray's. This is for 5th position. As we move into the second half of the race, Dave Hodkin's already completed 3 laps with a best of 2 minutes 33.8. He's 20 seconds clear of Bob Simpson, who's keeping this 2-second margin over Richard Jenkins. Then it's Raymond Barley in 4th. Then the cars we're watching on the screens in, I think Barley was still there, yes he was, because he's not got a working transponder, so that's making it harder to follow on the timing screens. He's 4 seconds ahead of this battle, Kemp, Glover and Bove. Steve Boover's back to 9th now. He's got himself ahead of Rod Hill as Mark Glover goes for what is 5th position on the inside of Andrew Kemp. Kemp was using that wider line, but Glover was clever there because he used the tighter line and then he blocked Kemp on the exit of the corner, but Kemp still had enough grip to move off of that line and then move around the outside. So it was a good attempt there from Glover, but actually in the end it didn't come off. Andrew Kemp still in front in 5th place. Question from Tom Driscoll: if Jenkins is 3rd, can he still win the Class B Championship? I think the answer is no. It looks like, by our maths, that Steve Boover's already done enough to wrap up the Class B Championship for this year. So of course, you score points within Class B for that championship rather than the overall points. And rather than it for being a different specification of car, it's effectively a different specification of driver, as Andrew Kemp gets that a little bit wrong coming out of Agustin. He'll try and hang on. He's got Glover trying to go around the outside of him at Hamilton and will do so. And he's lost momentum there as well. It might give Peter Booth a chance to have a nibble as they go into Oggies. But no, I don't think he's quite close enough to make that work. They both run way to the left-hand side of the circuit. Kemp's had a few off-track moments in this race, hasn't he? And a big slide there that lost him a position. There's Peter Bove, who I think's just taking it cautiously, isn't he? Doesn't want to do anything stupid, and he's running there in 7th position. There's second, still Bob Simpson ahead of Richard Jenkins. Then it's Raymond Barley. Then that battle for 5th. Then if you look in the background, there is Steve Boover. He's got ahead of Chris Goff. If you look in the top of your shot, there we go. Steve Boover has got himself up into 8th position. So this has been a decent recovery after that spin, but now there's quite a gap, isn't there, to that next group of cars. And he's not really lapping any quicker than them. He's lapping the same pace as them. So if he was with them, he'd be battling with them. But I don't think he'd quite be able to catch them with the 2 laps at the end of this one, Ian.
I think you're right. 4.5 minutes to go, so we are into the final third of the race. Dave Hodkin has already got on to his 5th lap. So here's the Barley and Glover battle going through. Bob Simpson's just gone through as well, and he's now got a bigger lead over Richard Jenkins, who's disappeared, hasn't he?
So not according to the timing screen.
Yeah, it's not.
The gap's gone down according to the screens. It was in a
Well,
quick.
it must have been right behind there.
Yes.
It's so close that they were right together.
Yes, Richard Jenkins just done a personal best lap, 2:39. And behind them, Mark Glover is getting a move, and he's caught Raymond Barley. So there are some battles developing now with some cars catching. And there he goes. He was catching so quickly. Mark Glover's moved into 4th position then. He's gone ahead of Barley there, who spins as he tried to keep up with Glover. That didn't work at all. So that was looking for his best result of the season, I think.
Yeah.
He's had a 7th before, but Raymond Barley's not going to get that this time after spinning away what was 5th position there.
So that's a disappointment for him. He's back on track now, though. There's Andrew Kemp with Peter Bove just behind him, so they're promoted.
Stephen Booth has now done a 2:39, which is quicker than this group of cars. It's the 3rd quickest lap of the race, behind Dave Hodkin and Richard Jenkins.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Steve Booth, well, maybe Shemmy had that moment earlier, really.
Interested to see what's going on in that battle for 2nd now, wouldn't it? Because we saw Richard Jenkins was catching Bob Simpson, and the gap was 1.7 seconds at the end of 4 laps, but Jenkins was the best part of a full second quicker than Simpson. We're watching here Andrew Kemp, who still is there ahead of Peter Bove in the battle for 6th position. These 2 cars are the ones that are being caught by Steve Boover, who's recovering after that spin. There is Simpson then. So not quite close enough to challenge his Richard Jenkins, but he's certainly keeping Bob Simpson honest. It's great to see, though, Bob Simpson going so well in this race, because his best result before today has been a 5th. But again, where the conditions get a bit tricky, using all that experience, and he's right back into a podium contention.
Absolutely right. It'd be great for him to get a podium finish to round out the season. So let's hope that he can continue to do so. There's the 82 car of Martin Kemp running in 11th position in the Merlin, only just behind Rod Hill, the man from Ashby de la Zouch, in the Mystic, the number 5 car.
They both were being caught by Conway Dorr, but I don't think he's caught any more. He was only 2 seconds behind at the end of the lap, but that looks like it's gone out somewhat.
You can just see Conway in the background there in the number 12 car. That's the ex-championship winning car, Centaur. Anthony Rain won the title in that thicket 20 years ago now. Noticing
that Dave Hodkin, Richard Jenkins was catching Bob Simpson. Simpson's just done his personal best lap of the race, a 2:39.89, so he's extended the gap back out to 2 seconds to Jenkins. Glover 4th, who's going only a little bit quicker than them. He won't catch, assuming nobody makes a mistake. So he's there in 4th. Andrew Kemp 5th, but he's got Peter Bove right on his tail, so they're still close. And they're both being caught by Steve Boover, who's now done the 2nd fastest lap of the race, a 2:38.8. Problems, though, for Martin Kemp. Looks like he is going to be heading into the pit lane. He's got his hand in the air to let the other drivers know that he has a problem and will be retiring from the race. Meanwhile, there's Richard Jenkins, 3rd place driver. Now was just over 2 seconds behind Bob Simpson at the start of this final lap of the race. Is Bob Simpson? Yeah, there he is. Bob about a couple of seconds ahead still then, as they turn their way out of Agostinian towards the left-hander at Hamilton's. Half a minute ahead of these 2 is where Dave Hodkin is. So Dave Hodkin is going to win another race. I wonder how far he'll finish up the championship despite missing Silverstone. So he'd got up to 6th, I reckon, before this race. He's going to end up at equal points with Bob Simpson, but of course he'll have the wins to move him ahead, won't he? So at least be in the top 5 despite missing a third of the season.
Okay.
Oh, and Peter Bove's gone off. So I thought he was taking this race cautiously. Maybe not. Perhaps he has been driving as quickly as he can, but that's a spin there for Peter Bove. So that's going to drop him down some positions, it would seem. Here is Bob Simpson, though, a driver that's been in the category for over 50 seasons. He hasn't missed a year, and he's going to get a podium here today, but he's not going to win because that goes to Dave Hodkin, who crosses the line then. So that's his second win of the weekend to add to 2 second-place finishes at Mallory Park, and we'll have to wait a long while before anybody else finishes. But it does look like Bob Simpson is going to take second position then in this Simpson special. And there he is. He's still ahead of Richard Jenkins, so second is going to be for him, with Richard Jenkins third and Mark Glover there in what is 4th position.
So Bob Simpson over the line then. There's Richard Jenkins in second place. The gap in the end from first to second, 35.6 seconds. Another 3 seconds back was Richard Jenkins in third place. Glover takes 4th, Andrew Kemp 5th, and Steve Boover in 6th position. Peter Bove, though, takes 7th, and with that it will be enough for him to wrap up the championship title. So not as many points as he's had on any other occasion during the course of the season, having won the first 4 races, but Peter Bove there doing enough to wrap up the championship.
I reckon Andrew Kemp will jump Chris Goff in that final round to take third in the championship. Mark Glover second, of course. So Bove, Glover and Kemp, I reckon, in the top 3, with Chris Goff 4th, and then Bob Simpson and Dave Hodkin equal 5th on points.
Yeah, so that's the end of the Raceparts 750 Formula Championship for this season. There you can see Dave Hodkin's car already into Parc Ferme, and we heard from Dave yesterday, and it'd be good to hear from him again today. Hopefully we'll perhaps also be able to hear from our runner-up, Bob Simpson, if possible, and also maybe our champion, Peter Bove, if we have the time for all of that. You can see Matt Suckling heading down to the interview area. I can see Dave Hodkin taking his helmet off as well. Still more races to come here today, though, at Snetterton. Next up, we're going to have the BMW Car Club Racing Championship. We've got the Zamp Helmets Sports 1000 Championship, final round of that. And then later, the Tiki-Wa Club Enduro Championship, the second race of the day for the BMWs, and then the final race of the weekend for the Swallow Hill Homes F1000 Championship. I can see Dave Hodkin being presented with his garland and the winner's face mask as well that you now get. And Matt's also going to see if he can get Bob Simpson ready for an interview as well. So any second now we'll be able to hand down. Matt's just getting into position, I can see. So let's now head down to the interview area, and it's going to be Matt Suckling to speak to Dave Hodkin this time.
Yeah, thanks very much. Down here with our Raceparts 750 Formula winner, which is Dave Hodkin, for the second time this weekend. Dave, it's been a bit of a nice weekend for you. 2 wins and quite wet out there this morning.
It was horrible, absolutely horrible. We've had every condition over the 2 days, and at least it rained. The worst thing is when you sat there thinking, is it slicks, is it wet, is it slicks? It did the job and rained, so at least we knew it was wet, but it was really greasy. It was almost like driving on cold tyres the whole time. You just couldn't trust the car at any point, as you could tell by the unique tyre warming technique on the warming up lap, spinning at Hamilton's.
Okay.
Fortunately able to dump the clutch and drop the downshift and keep it going, but Hamilton's remained just totally untrustworthy the whole time. Every time you went through that, it did something different to you.
I suppose it was a little bit harder that time round because the start was a bit tricky, so you had to do a bit of work to catch back up, but apart from that it was pretty plain sailing.
But it's always, the great thing about this formula is the different type of cars. And in the wet, those cars with rear engines have so much more traction off the line. So you probably noticed that Peter Bove and I got swamped off the start because the people behind us have got rear engine cars and they were able to put the power down. But a nice move around the outside through the left-hander into the infield got me back up to the front again, and after that it was just trying not to throw it in the scenery.
A lovely way to end the year. You can now relax for the rest of the year and look forward to next year.
Oh yeah, as if there isn't 50 million things to do to try and make it better.
You've done well, Dave. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There you go, Dave Hodkin, our winner from that 750 Formula race. We'll try and grab a quick word with Bob Simpson, who's just having a quick chat with his grandson, I think, there. But what a great job Bob has done. Bob, we know you've been around this championship now for many, many years, but what a great result that is for second place.
It's absolutely fantastic. You know, for the family, for me, I've been there and done it, but for all the others that haven't done it, the grandson, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. There's been lots of support online, people watching at home, people watching here at the circuit. They're so proud of what you've done, and you've done a great job today. Second place, that must have been hard though in those
It was a long race. It was a really long race, you know, and it's getting slippery. As it's drying out, it's getting really slippery now. But I'm just glad to pull second place off.
Are you going to add another year to your championship next year?
Of course.
It wouldn't be the same without you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Bob. Well done indeed. And let's have a quick word with Richards as well, finishing in third place. Well done. That was good. Class B winner as well.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, we're somewhat down on power compared to the front runners. So this conditions really sort of play into our hands because the car handles beautifully. So I really enjoyed it out there.
And there was a few little battles to get involved with, one with Bob as well, trying to catch him down towards the end.
Yeah, Bob drove really well. I tried my best. There was a couple of hairy moments where I started to spin, but I managed to hold it together. I just couldn't get on the back of him close enough to really worry him, but it was a great race.
And many people say in these conditions it's probably the hardest to drive because they're not kind of anything, they're in between.
Completely, and there was a lot of corners that changed on each lap, so you couldn't really sort of know what was going to happen when you were coming up to it, so it was all a little bit of a lottery.
Well done for third place and also the class win.
Thank you very much.
There we go then, our top three down here in Parc Fermé for that Raceparts 750 Formula race. As you said, the last one of 2020, but we look forward to much more from them next year. On track next is the first action today from the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, and we'll see what that race holds as we head back to you.
Well done.